All right, let's talk about AI in coding. But forget what you think you know. This isn't about that fancy autocomplete anymore. We're on the verge of something way bigger. By 2025, we're talking about AI agents as actual teammates in your .NET projects. I mean, they'll be writing code, reviewing your pull requests, maybe even planning releases. It's a huge shift. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what this means for you and your team.
Okay, so what exactly is an AI agent? Let's get on the same page. You can think of it as a system that's built to get things done. It takes in reasoning, context, and a bunch of tools to go after a specific goal. But here's the absolute game changer, the word autonomy. You see, you're not spoon-feeding it instructions. Nope. You give it a mission, like build this feature, and it actually plans and executes the steps all on its own.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the awesome promise of productivity. Then, we'll pull back the curtain on the hidden maintenance costs. We'll do a quick reality check on adoption and how devs are feeling. And finally, we'll talk about how to bring these agents into your workflow the smart way. Let's dive in. All right, Section 1, the promise of productivity. Let's get into the good stuff first, right? We're talking about a serious boost to how we work. This is all about supercharging the entire .NET workflow, from the boring boilerplate code all the way to tricky DevOps stuff. So there are really three key pieces of tech driving this whole shift, especially for us .NET folks. First up, you've got Copilot Agents. Think of these as your little buddy right inside your IDE, helping you create features and get tasks done. Then there are GitHub Models, which operate at the whole repo level, super smart for suggesting tests or analyzing changes. And finally, the glue that can hold it all together is Semantic Kernel. That's the framework you'd use to build your own custom AI agents. Let's see how these all play together.
Okay, let's make this real. Picture this. You're sitting in Visual Studio. You type out a single prompt to your Copilot agent, something like, hey, create a get endpoint for orders, make a DTO for it, and write the XUnit tests. And bam, it doesn't just give you a little snippet of code, no, it gets it. It generates the controller file, the endpoint logic, the DTO class, and then it writes the unit tests for you, covering the happy path and error cases. Your job just changed from being the writer to being the editor. You review, you tweak, you merge. This is where we're heading.
Now let's zoom out from your local machine to the whole repository. So, a developer on your team opens a new pull request. A GitHub action kicks off automatically, and it uses one of these GitHub models to look at the code changes. The model figures out what's new and then suggests the exact unit test you're missing for that new code. It might even open a new PR with those tests already written. All you have to do is take a look and say, yep, looks good. Okay, so that all sounds amazing, right? But it's not the whole story. There's a darker side to all this newfound productivity, a hidden cost. We're talking about a potential maintenance nightmare. And this isn't just a feeling. We've got the data to prove it.
So you have to be asking yourself, with all this incredible productivity on the table, what's the catch? Because there's always a catch, isn't there?
Well, here you go. Researchers from Tilburg University looked at thousands of open source projects after GitHub Copilot was introduced, and they found this: a 2.4% jump in the amount of code rework needed in pull requests. So what does that tell us? It suggests we're writing more code, faster, but the quality of that first draft might be, well, a little rough, needing more back and forth before it's ready. And this quote from the people who did the research just hits the nail on the head. Productivity gains of AI may mask the growing burden of maintenance on a shrinking pool of experts. Think about that. We feel like we're going faster, but what's really happening is we're pushing a huge maintenance problem onto our most experienced developers. And this chart, wow, it really shows you who's doing the work. After AI tools were adopted, the less experienced, or peripheral developers, started committing way more code, like a 43.5% increase. But look at the core senior developers. Their commit activity actually dropped by 19%. So if they aren't writing as much code, what are they doing with all that time? And here's the answer. This is where that time went. While their commits went down, their pull request review activity went up by 6.5%. So they're trading their coding time for review time. They've become the gatekeepers, the quality control, trying to manage this massive influx of AI-assisted code from the rest of the team.
Okay, so we've got this tension, right? The promise of insane productivity versus the peril of a maintenance nightmare. So where are we right now? Let's do a quick reality check on how widely these tools are being used and, how developers really feel about them.
Well, a recent report from Jellyfish makes it pretty clear. We are still in the super early experimental phase.
Get this, 93% of companies have only tried out 2 or fewer AI review tools. So this isn't some massive top-down mandate yet. It's much more of a let's try this out and see what happens vibe.
And how do devs feel? You might be surprised. It's actually pretty balanced. The majority of interactions are just neutral. Not good, not bad. Then you have a pretty big chunk, 36%, that are positive. And only a tiny slice, just 8%, are actively negative. To me, that says developers are pretty open-minded about this stuff, even with its flaws.
And you have to love the actual feedback developers leave. It tells the whole story. You've got the good stuff, like nice catch, good bot. Then you have the not so good, like what this is straight up wrong. And my personal favorite, you're drunk at agent name, go to sleep. I mean, that just perfectly captures the state of things, right? It's this wild mix of brilliant and, well, completely bonkers.
So that brings us to the most important part. We've seen the good, we've seen the bad. How do we actually move forward? Let's map out a smart way to adopt these agents for .NET teams.
Okay, the big takeaway here is not to throw the tools out. The key is to manage them. And here's the best way to think about it. Treat the AI agent like a brand new junior developer on your team. A junior dev who never gets tired, works incredibly fast, but is still very, very junior. And what does a junior dev need? They need guidance, they need oversight, and they definitely need guardrails.
So what do those guardrails look like in practice? Well, first, and this is non-negotiable, keep a human in the loop. Any PR an AI creates should start as a draft, period. A human has to give the final okay. Second, auto-validation is your best friend. Every single change from an agent has to pass your entire build, all your tests, all your static analysis, no exceptions. Third, the principle of least privilege. Don't give the agent keys to the kingdom. It only gets the permissions it needs to do its job, and absolutely no production secrets. And finally, you've got to have traceability. Tag every commit made by an AI so you can always track it back to its source.
And look, you don't have to do all of this at once. You can roll this out in stages. Start small. Let individual developers play with Copilot agents on their local machines for things like boilerplate and tests. Then take one step up. Introduce a single, low-risk automation in your repo, maybe a GitHub action that just suggests unit tests. Once you're comfortable, maybe you try building a very simple agent with Semantic Kernel for a task like generating release notes. And only then, after you've learned from those steps, do you expand and create a formal process for it all.
So at the end of the day, this isn't about AI replacing developers, it's about AI augmenting them. It's becoming a new member of the team, and like any new teammate, it requires a new way of thinking, a new way of managing. So the question isn't if this is going to be part of your workflow. The real question is your team ready to manage it?
Before you head out, let me leave you with a small ask. If this video made your .NET brain spark even a little, hit that like button. It takes you 1 second.